ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest gaming news with your host, V-Gaming Junkie! The Dross was shoved into a loot box with a 0.00001% chance of appearing, so there's nothing but pure gaming-related meatiness. It is all about that electronic good stuff as we dive deep into all that's new in the various interactive virtual worlds. And so there's been some interesting new information regarding Splinter Cell's remake. It seems Ubisoft is looking to hire scriptwriters for the purposes of, quote, rewriting and updating the story for a modern audience. Also to make the characters and world, quote, more authentic and believable. Last I checked, this isn't Metal Gear Solid. The characters and world were plenty believable enough already. Many, myself included, are seeing these words and are concerned that it means they're going to pander to a certain group. A certain little group that demands a message be forcefully injected into all entertainment media to fulfill an agenda. Now mind you, not all story changes are inherently bad in a remake. The GameCube remake of Resident Evil, for example, among other things, added Lisa Trevor, and she's an amazing and very tragic addition to the story. The thing is though, the way that's worded sounds an awful lot like Disney remakes and other things that tend to make changes arguably for the worst. It's the kind of way that people are getting sick of because it always detracts from the stories and makes them more shallow. I'm genuinely hoping for the best on this, but I'd be lying if I said those words modern audience didn't completely kill my interest. Do note, however, that I would love to be pleasantly surprised, so please prove me wrong, Ubisoft. Speaking of Ubisoft, they apparently stirred up a bit of controversy over a recent statement made. Specifically, the CEO said that to create you need a little friction. It seems some people interpreted that as them believing that he's calling for a difficult environment. He has since clarified that he meant creative tension where people have the freedom to challenge ideas and have healthy debates. But then, depending on who you ask, just questioning ideas is considered a bad thing now. Honestly though, if that sentiment means what he claims it means, then I wish more game companies encourage that. You know, not just went ahead with bad ideas that the game community at large is going to heavily disapprove of. It's actually kind of funny that I'm reporting on this right after the Splinter Cell remake story because that might end up being an example of this. Of course, I can't say for sure how that will end up. I just hope that if they've got any ideas for that are going to make fans of the original furious, that it does get some people questioning it. I would very much like for game companies to succeed despite me often reporting on bad things on their part. If this quote friction unquote helps towards that, then great. Then again, if healthy debates can even be possible anymore, it'll be a miracle. In other news, Google Stadia has bested the odds and became the one game streaming service to stand the test of time. I'm sure you know by now that that was just a joke on my part. No, like many things Google has attempted over the years, Google Stadia has crashed and burned. I really hope YouTube doesn't join that list because this place is a lot better than Twitch, but you know. This probably isn't too surprising because unlike movies, you kind of need constant input to do streaming games right. Granted, when I Let's Played Stadia Pro games with a freebie month, it was fairly responsive, but then I have an internet that can stream 1080p 60 frames per second, so I'm not exactly in the lower tier of internet here. It probably doesn't help that the games for the most part required you to buy them at a similar cost to retail games while also only being able to essentially rent them. Had it been like the Xbox Game Pass or something, it might have fared better since it's more like rental, so it should be like a rental price. Pro did give you access to some games, but let's just say it was pretty slim pickings. Anyway, Google Stadia is shutting down its service effective January 18th, 2023. In the words of your boy Duty, crying emojis in the chat, players. Crying emojis in the chat. Thankfully, games and add-on content purchased will be refunded for any of you who bought into it, not to mention the hardware itself. All I gotta say is rest in peace, Google Stadia. We kind of all expected you wouldn't make it, but you put in a good run anyway. In other news, a 17-year-old was arrested in relation to GTA 6 hacking. Specifically, the individual being arrested seems to be connected to the recent leak of GTA 6, along with a supposed breach of assets and source code for 5 and 6. According to Push Square's article, Microsoft, Cisco, Samsung, Nvidia, Okta, and others were also breached. The group in question seems to be called Lapsus $, which is an interesting name. Apparently, one member of the group amassed $14 million through hacking at the age of 16. Obviously, details about the individuals aren't being reported on since they're technically minors. Given the names of the companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, and Samsung specifically, this group definitely isn't small time. I wouldn't be surprised if any members found out got the book thrown at them to make examples out of them. Probably the closest thing I can think of to something like this is the Nintendo Giga Leak, which to my knowledge never had any suspect or suspects being found out. As always, I'll keep you updated if anything changes on that front, as well as more hacks and leaks of these proportions. And if any super vindictive companies like 2K Games are watching, note that I do not endorse these leaks. I especially don't endorse full-on hacking into servers to get them. On the subject of those leaks though, it seems fans are constructing a GTA 6 map based on those leaks. As reported on by GameSpot, it's being made by people on the GTA forum using footage and screenshots to make a copycat. Here's hoping that 2K Games doesn't snipe it from orbit, given they have a history of aggressively going against community-made things in the past. This is something that actually sort of spoils the location of their upcoming game, so they probably have even more reason to try to crush it, even if it is just a map. Maybe I'm wrong though, and I kind of hope I am. Believe it or not, I actually don't want companies to make extreme measures against their own fans, it just tends to sort of happen. If nothing else, this constructed map seems to be around the same size as GTA 5's map, just shaped somewhat differently. It of course seems to be based after Vice City, which of course was the location of Vice City and Vice City Stories respectively. Although it's pretty much guaranteed to be in the modern day, mind you. Well, that's pretty cool, and having such a tropical location based after Miami, Florida has a ton of potential, I'm still iffy about that one. We'll just have to wait and see, and I will certainly keep you updated if anything major happens. Now here's another interesting story. It seems a new Silent Hill game got age rated in South Korea. It's a little bizarre that a new game would be revealed through an age rating of all things, let alone South Korea first, but it's something. The title seems to be called Silent Hill: The Short Message, which GamePer points out is similar to PT, which was short for Playable Teaser. There are leaked images that suggest it will be a remake of the second game, which of course would make sense given it's the most favored one in the franchise. That also makes sense why they wouldn't just make a new one, given Kojima wrote the stories for Silent Hill. Frankly, I'm surprised Konami hasn't been shooting for the remake route of their older games. You only really need graphics people and to an extent gameplay mechanics people for that. Unless you want to, quote, change it for a modern audience, unquote, you can just leave the story alone. It wouldn't surprise me if Konami eventually made a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, in fact. They already have a very beautiful version of its cutscenes just being stuck on a pachinko machine, and modern consoles, not to mention PC, should be able to make something similar to that for fidelity's sake. All I'm saying, Konami, is the potential is there, and if it's good enough, people might even be willing to buy it. It's a no-brainer, and given your attempt to make a new Metal Gear game on your own without Kojima didn't exactly survive, if you'll pardon the pun, this would be your best bet. In other news, James Earl Jones is stepping down from his iconic role as Darth Vader. It's been over 45 years since the original Star Wars movie first released, and James Earl Jones himself is 91, so it's to be expected that he would hang up the mantle eventually. I'll be honest though, I'm not sure how I feel about the thought of his voice being AI recreated, but at least he gave them explicit permission to do so. They didn't just hang a contract over in posthumous and decide, welp, we own you forever now. That probably shouldn't be the focus here anyway. The focus is on James Earl Jones stepping down. Honestly, he's more than earned it. He's not just known for Darth Vader, of course, even if it's his most recognizable role. Notably, he also did Mufasa from The Lion King and a few other lesser roles like the Giant from the 2009 Jack and the Beanstalk and Admiral Halifax from Quantum Quest. Here's hoping what time he has left on this earth is pleasant. He will always be one of the most iconic voices in all of cinema history. Thank you for all you've done, James Earl Jones, and may the Force be with you. And finally, if you've ever wanted a Super Mario Bros. 5, then one very dedicated fan has you covered. Metroid Mike 64 has taken it upon himself to make his own interpretation of a Super Mario Bros. 5 and Super Mario Maker 2, in other words, in a format Nintendo isn't likely to C&D over. Given that Super Mario Bros. 4, aka Super Mario World, will be turning 32 on the 21st of November, this is definitely a long time coming. Even if it's not an official Mario game, it includes 40 courses over 8 worlds. 24 are from Super, 14 from 3, and 2 from the original. His goal is to, quote, provide you with something Nintendo should have done already, make a full Mario game that's fun as heck. From what I've seen of a Let's Play of the levels, they seem mildly challenging but more than fair. It's about what you'd expect from an official Mario game in terms of difficulty, and is definitely a much better love letter to Mario than Nintendo's own relatively lackluster Super Mario 3D All-Stars, if I'm honest. Feel free to check it out for yourself if you have Super Mario Maker 2, this is definitely a very ambitious one to grab. And as always, straight out of the oven of Games Radar, it's time for the latest batch of release dates. The 4th has Dekar Desert Rally for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, also Overwatch 2 for the 6 major platforms, while the 5th has Death vs. Let It Die for PC. The 6th has Nier Automata The End of Yorha Edition for Switch and Triple Take for PC. Finally, the 7th has No Man's Sky for Switch and Superpower 3 for PC. This week's epic freebie until next Thursday is just one release. I'm kidding, it's another 2-for-1 special. The first one is Runbow, a party platformer that's all about 9-player online multiplayer with an 8 local multiplayer. The second is Drone Racing League Simulator, obviously a racing game featuring drones. Now that's definitely a combination I haven't seen before, and hey, it's free right now, so you can't argue with the price. And that concludes the news broadcast as always. I hope you found it entertaining and informative. If you good people want more content, I Let's Play every single day at high noon, live stream Mondays and Thursdays unless otherwise specified at 4:30 p.m., and I do news videos like this one every Friday at 6 p.m. All in Eastern Standard Time, of course. If you're a real junkie for all things gaming like I am, then feel free to hit that subscribe and bell icon to get your next fix. A like and a comment are always appreciated for that engagement, but I just hope you genuinely enjoyed yourself, and that is it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Spread this video around like hacks and leaks, and I'll see you next time. Capitalize on life, peace out, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.